Welcome to the Empowered Birth Series, where I go deep into everything that you need to know to plan and get your empowered, true natural birth experience. And today's topic is all about email. Now, you might be confused by this. How can signing up for an email newsletter cause you to have your confidence undermined? Well, the thing about the email newsletters is that you are affecting your right mindset and your right education, not to mention your right environment. If it's also somebody who happens to claim that they are an expert, you may not have the right facilitators. And the empowered birth method is all about having the right mindset, the right education, the right environment, the right facilitators, and the right support. And when you have all five of these optimized, that is when you can get your empowered birth. If you want to know more about that, you can always check out my book, Your Empowered Birth, which you can see behind me. It's also inside of the YouTube playlist. So just go into the playlist and check out the Empowered Birth book playlist. Yes, I do actually read the entire book to you. You can also go and get the exercises off of my website. But basically, here's the thing about the empowered birth method is that I am committed to you having an empowered birth, whether you work with me any further or not. The same thing cannot always be said when you join an email list or sign up for an app. Now, here's the reason why you don't want to do this, because I'm going into the 26 things that you need to know if this is your first time planning a true natural birth. And one of the big mistakes that I made as a first time mom was I signed up for those due date emails. In fact, I didn't just sign up for one, I didn't just sign up for two, I signed up for three of them. So I had three different websites with three different forums that all sent me the due date emails every single week. And what I noticed while I was doing this and reading these emails is that they weren't really telling you about how big the baby is so much as they were doing something else. Now, as somebody who had a background in psychology, I could kind of see what they were doing, so I was able to block it out. I wouldn't read any further than this is the size of fruit that your baby is, or this is how big your baby is growing, or this is what to expect. I didn't read anything about what questions to ask my doctor because I wasn't interested in having a doctor or a medicalized pregnancy. I wanted a holistic pregnancy. I wanted to basically come in, get checked out a little bit, and then go on my way and just have a healthy baby at the end of it. So I hired a midwife and I planned a home birth. A lot of the things that were being talked about within these emails were not helping me. So today I'm going to do something a little different than the typical birth tips and help you protect your mindset and your education so that if you do sign up for these emails, you know why you're doing it. And you understand also that there are some problems that you can fall into, some traps, the natural birth traps, which I again talk about inside Your Empowered Birth, and specifically the traps of your mindset and the fear traps that you can fall into when you read these emails. Now, you don't even have to open these emails. It could just come up as a headline. And all of a sudden, you're going to have a question that you didn't have before, or you're going to have a doubt or a fear that you didn't have before based on these headlines. I'm also going to say that these apps and emails usually are designed for a marketing purpose. They want you to open the email, they want you to read the entire thing, and they want you to buy a product. They're not just doing it just because. They're doing it because they want you to be a customer. Usually these emails also come with baby products. They come with things like formula, coupons, and samples, and they're basically trying to sell you into other baby products. If they are emails from birth workers, usually they do have courses or classes that they want to get you into. I'm going to be completely transparent here. Yes, I do have classes. Yes, I do have a self-study program. Yes, there are options to purchase things from me. However, my take on empowered birth and what I embody in all of my content is simple. Information is free. You only pay for access to me. So within my newsletter, it's a little different, and I'll talk about that as an example later, as well as tell you more about my email newsletter, the Empowered Birth newsletter, and how it's different and how it actually protects your mindset. But first, let's get into those 3 big problems that come with signing up for those due date emails, because number 17 on the list of the 26 things that you need to know if this is your first time planning a true natural birth is to resist the temptation to sign up for those due date emails, or any email for that matter. I mean, oftentimes you're going to see things out there for new moms. It's like, sign up for this, it's free. However, you need to be careful because there's something called the foot in the door, which is a concept within psychology and even the psychology of selling, where if they get their foot in the door, suddenly you are more likely to be open to other things that they have to sell. Now, my foot in the door is simple. You see this video, you get to learn the education, you get all the information for free. Now, if you do want to work with me further, there are ways to do that. And you can check out my website, empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide, to learn more about the empowered birth method. I lay it all out for you. I tell you about true natural birth versus the natural birth within the system, which we're going to talk about in this video, of why these emails can be quite problematic is because they're not promoting true natural birth. And if they are, they usually are missing 1 or 2 pieces. Not always intentional. Sometimes fish can't see the water they swim in. And birth workers on both sides of the dichotomy have issues with this. Go back and watch some of my other videos where I talk about how to hire your doula, how to hire your care provider, and even what to look for in the mom groups, as opposed to trying to get that information from just mainstream. You're also looking at the experts, but everyone is a human first and an expert second. So you need to recognize that there is a psychology that is going on every time that you sign up for something, every time that you are reading an article, every time that you are in a mom group, every time that you are reading a book, and every time that you are talking to someone. You need to be your own best expert first before you go and consume any outside information. And we have not been taught that in our culture. You've been taught what to think, not how to think. And this then leads you to asking other people what to do or how to think about something, and they're giving their opinions and not helping you. So a lot of what I teach inside your Empowered Birth Academy, what I have in my self-study, the workbooks that I also put inside the Empowered Birth Toolkit, and what I teach in my newsletter is giving you those tools to start tuning into yourself and asking yourself questions rather than ask the outside. You can still ask the outside. However, you need to have your right mindset first. And again, I talk about this inside my book, Your Empowered Birth. And you can also learn more about that by going to empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide. So what are these problems when it comes to signing up for an email newsletter? So the first one you need to be aware of is that usually the information is mainstream and arbitrary, particularly if this is a very popular forum. So the overall pregnancy forums, where they have mothers of all walks of life, all gestations, all looking to achieve a birth experience, but they don't have the similar perspective on the kind of birth they want. So you are lumped in with the moms who want the epidural, which is mostly mainstream based on our birth culture and our culture of fear. You're lumped in with the moms that are absolutely terrified of natural birth. You're lumped in with a lot of moms that just follow what the doctor says. Now, you wanting a true natural birth, this is not a good environment for you. I myself did this. As I said, I signed up for every single mom pregnancy forum that I could get my hands on as a first-time mom. And what I found when I got in there was that I was the odd person out. I was the one who was like, I'm questioning my doctor right now. I'm questioning my midwife right now. I'm questioning how things are going. But everybody else around me is telling me not to question it because they know more. Because what if something bad happens? Because such and such thing happened to them. And I didn't yet have the right education to really start to pick that apart. It wasn't until I became a birth advocate, after getting tricked out of my home birth and seeing that I had to fight my way through to get a true natural birth experience in the hospital, that I really started to uncover what was going on politically, what I was able to uncover when it came to the disadvantages that midwives had in the system. When I recognized that doulas didn't always know everything, that they were also traumatized by the system. When I recognized that the fish couldn't see the water, essentially, that they were swimming in. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like there is a whole other layer here. And I fell into this trap of mindset because I started to doubt myself. And the reason I started to doubt myself was because I let that information in and I just took it at face value. I kept asking questions and I kept challenging. And when I would challenge, I'd be told, quit being so difficult. You don't know what to expect. You're a first-time mom. What do you know? Your doctor has 20 years of experience, or your midwife has 10 years of experience, and you know nothing. And you're going to change your mind once you actually go into labor. You think that you can handle it, but you can't. And there are all these stories of moms who were second-time and third-time moms who were like, I'm just going to get the epidural this time. So when you recognize that it's very mainstream in the forums themselves, before you even put in your name and email, there's those forums, the Facebook groups, or just an online community that anybody can have access to, and you're gathering that information. But here's the thing. When you put in your name and your email, you are now subscribing to a mindset. And whether you believe this or not, I mean, I've started to really recognize that what you choose is what you continue to attract. So what you focus on gets stronger. And if you choose to bring something in that maybe has things that undermine you, you are choosing to bring in more of that. So by putting in your name and email, you need to be careful what you're putting in. It's not just signing up for this due date thing. It's not just seeing how big your baby is. What else is in that email? What is the actual intention? Well, the intention for a lot of them is to sell you into formula. It's to sell you into a mindset of following the typical mainstream what to expect at doctor's appointments. There's questions that come up in the inbox that are like, I'm worried about this. So now there's a worry that you weren't thinking about. And suddenly it's in front of you. This is the same thing with books. There's a semi-popular book that has been around for many different editions, and many generations have used this book. However, doulas do not like this book. Midwives do not like this book. It's not that the information is wrong, because there's some information that is helpful. It's that the information is all mainstream. And usually it also has a lot of concerns and worries and things that can go wrong. It's like everything that can possibly go wrong put into book form. And you think that that's a good idea. You think, oh, I need to know everything that could possibly go wrong. But the problem is that this now poisons your mindset. So one of the things that I do within the empowered birth method is we unleash all of our fears. We put them out on paper so we can look at them. And then what we do is we kind of work through that. And there are videos on how to do this. If you do have any questions on how to get past fear, I do actually have a mini course on that. Again, you don't pay for information. You only pay for access to me. So you can have the information. However, if you want me to walk you through it, if you want to be able to email back and forth with me, that's where it's a paid service. And that's where the actual money is going if you buy the course itself. However, if you just want to do this completely on your own, do it yourself, then there is the do it yourself path. And all I ask is that you pay it forward, pass it on, pass this information to other moms who could use it, tell them where to find me, tell them about the empowered birth method so that we can get this out into mainstream. Because right now, what we have is a culture that is going the way of the medical route, or they're trying to have a natural birth, but they're falling into the natural birth traps. So if you don't want anybody to touch you unless absolutely medically necessary, and you want to be able to be the one to call the shots on that and not have somebody else decide whether or not you need something, when you can look back and be like, I didn't need that, but they really put pressure on me and I feel so much guilt about that, or I have trauma around that. If you want to avoid that and have your autonomy, then this is what you need to do. You have to be very, very conscious about what you're taking in. So if you've got a mainstream forum and they say, sign up for this email thing every single week, and we'll tell you how big your baby is every single week, that sounds fun. Until you open those emails and you get to the end of your pregnancy, and guess what they're talking about? They're talking about getting you into labor, preparing your body for labor. What if I have to have a C-section? Oh, that's in there. Oh, well, you know what? What if the baby's breached? That's in there. What if I go overdue? Well, now they're talking induction and they're telling you all those scary statistics. This is a deeper, more enmeshed version of what you get in the mom groups. Go check out some of my other videos where I talk about the mom groups, because when you go into those groups, it's the same thing, but you're not signing up for an email. So it's not in your inbox. And even if you don't open the email, if you just ignore it and you're just using it as a guideline of, oh, cool, this is the week that I'm in my pregnancy, because I did this with my second. I was like, I just need to know what week I'm in. I'm not opening the emails. I already know the process. Like, I'm not interested in that, but I just need to know every single week what week I'm in. And I'm not even going to open them, just check the headline. But the headlines can be really alarming. And then they also send other emails in addition to that. Some people are a little bit less honest, and they'll sell your information. I don't do that. So like when you sign up for my list, it is my list and I give you your newsletter. I don't give your information out to anybody else. So I just want to be completely transparent with that. But there are people who do. And this is another thing you need to be aware of, is like, who is really asking for your email and what is their intention and what are they going to do with it? And sometimes the stuff they offer is really good. And it looks like something you can't really pass up. Maybe they're even offering you a free ebook. And you're like, oh, well, this would be really useful. But you open up that ebook, and what it really is it's a bunch of fluff telling you, go buy my course or go get this thing to get the real information. Again, here at empoweringmomsbirth.com and the Empowered Birth channel, I don't do that. Information is free. You only pay for access to me. So I want you to know the difference, because not everybody is going to be upfront about that. Another thing, aside from the due date emails, is if you sign up to get a birth plan template. Now, I myself have birth plan templates. I have a birth plan workbook. Again, you can just email me, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. I'm happy to give that to you. If you're not ready to sign up for my newsletter, that is perfectly fine. You just need to be able to get the information, show me you're interested in it, and then pay it forward. Tell others about the channel, because I can't grow without an audience that is committed to everyone having an empowered birth, whatever that looks like. So usually what happened is that they had these big websites and they offered a whole bunch of free stuff and they offered the coupons, and you sign up to get these coupons. However, what you're really doing is you're buying into that consumer mindset. You're buying into this idea that one size fits all. And you're also buying into this idea of the mainstream birth culture, which you don't want. The other thing about due date emails is they're arbitrary, as I said. So they say that your baby is growing at this rate. I discovered with my son that that is not true. Because I ended up having a later gestation, he was not growing at the rate that they thought he was supposed to grow. And then that's how I also got undermined and tricked. So you need to be aware of that, is that this is very mainstream, this is very arbitrary, and you have to recognize the lens of what's really going on. So number 2 on the list, as I said, I already covered this a little bit, is that it reinforces the mainstream medical culture. Or it can even go the other route. It can reinforce the natural birth culture, but in the way of still doing. So recently on ChatGPT, I was playing around with this as well, because I actually use the AI in a way that a lot of people don't, where I'm reflecting things back and getting some prompts. And what I've noticed, and this is an insight I've had for years, and I also talk about this inside Your Empowered Birth, is that there's this idea that you have to do something in order to have a natural birth, when it's actually the opposite. Your body is going to grow your baby. Now, maybe you might want to be paying attention to some markers, especially if you have some medical concerns, to be able to see, am I still going on track, or do I need to pivot to my backup plan? Do I need to change something to ensure that my plan actually goes to pass? Because sometimes it's as simple as, oh, I need to alter something in my diet. Okay, no problem. Oh, I need to pull back on some of the things I'm doing to be able to get more rest time, because this pregnancy is taking a little bit more out of me. Oh, this care provider that I'm with doesn't know how to handle this. However, I can still have a natural birth. I just can't go with this person. When you understand that the aim of true natural birth is not true natural birth or bust, but instead recognizing your body has a physiological process. It is completely unique to you. That means nobody else is going to have your exact process. Nobody is having your exact baby. This is your adventure. This is your journey. So you are in the driver's seat here. And so many people have been told over and over and over throughout the history of maternity care, don't worry your pretty little head about it. We'll take care of everything. And they grew up with that. And then they passed that on and passed that on and passed that on. And the innate knowledge for birth has been lost. We are just starting to reclaim it. If you want to read more about that, go check out Reclaiming Childbirth as a Rite of Passage. It tells you right in the beginning about how we got into this mess and the overall birth culture and her story of birth. And then in the second half of the book, there's a deep, in-depth description and explanation of physiological birth and how it can unfold. And then you can start to see through those chapters, oh, that's why that medical intervention or that idea is causing so many problems today when people are trying to have a true natural birth. Because again, our culture doesn't support it. Our society does not support true natural birth. In order to have one, you have to take back your power. No permission needed. You have to get the birth you want without having to fight beg, or compromise. And the Empowered Birth Method, again, teaches you how to do that. So if you go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide, that's going to give you the overview. If you also want to go and check out some of the links that are embedded in that start guide, that's going to take you on a deeper level of what I'm teaching you, because these master classes in themselves are also giving you information based on over a decade of experience I've had, not only as a birth advocate, but also when I was sampling the birth cultures as a teenager, as a preteen child, even when I was a child, recognizing birth is an immersive culture that you have been swimming in all of your life. Every single attitude that your family and friends have about birth, you have absorbed at some point. So the Empowered Birth Method is all about releasing that, because the emails, if you're getting the ones that are reinforcing the doing culture instead of the being of birth and being able to trust your intuition, you're putting more of that external programming back into yourself. So you need to recognize that when you're opening up an email, what is it really teaching you? Now, I'm going to say that with the Empowered Birth newsletter, what I do is I sample a bunch of information. So I sample from the different areas, the different birth influencers. I find videos. Sometimes I share those through the newsletter. Sometimes I share quotes from books. Sometimes I answer questions and I put them in. It's like, this is from the inbox. Here's my take on it. I also tell you, of course, what's going on in the community, what's coming up, if I have any classes available, if I have any interviews. I put all of this inside of the newsletter. And it's basically a choose your own adventure in itself, similar to the start guide, where you can read through the newsletter and then save it and come back to it later so that you can get those pieces. Because again, information is free. You only pay for access to me. And the first method of payment is simply subscribing to the newsletter. Once you've done that, you now know everything that I'm putting out there for that week. And then what you can do is you can pay it forward. But you're also getting that through the YouTube channel. You're getting that through my social media. You get that through the website. All of the information is out there. And if you ever have any questions, all you have to do is email. One of the bonuses of subscribing to the Empowered Birth newsletter is you get the Empowered Birth Toolkit. And the Empowered Birth Toolkit is a versatile resource library, essentially, where I put things in and I take things out as needed. For certain themes, if I create something, I put something new in, you get access to that. It could be a little tiny course, like a video, a module of a course. You could end up getting an entire PDF guide that tells you everything you need to know about a certain thing that you're working through. You get workbooks inside of this toolkit. The only thing that stays the same is the birth advocacy report, and that was intentional because, as I said, fish can't see the water they swim in. And when you are advocating within the system, you're dealing with their external fears. And they are reinforcing their own medical culture on you. So when you have those emails coming in from the mainstream, they are also reinforcing that medical culture, that medical mindset, that fear-based mindset that we have all grown up with, because we can't see the water that we swim in until we're fully self-aware. Now, I'm also going to say, if you haven't really learned much about human design, I'm just going to say that I am a reflector, which means that I sample energy. I sample things. I sample information from different sources and different perspectives. And then what I do is I look at that and I reflect it back and I see what's missing. So this is why I said that you need to be aware. And if you're not a reflector, that's not a natural ability for you. There might be other superpowers you have. And if you do want to talk about that, you can always reach out to me, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com, because this is one of my premium coaching services that I do offer, is looking at your unique human design type, and then also looking at other aspects of your personality, and then custom tailoring that with the empowered birth method to find the strategy within that that's going to work best for you. Because one size does not fit all. And this is true even in maternity care, because somebody could have a really good, easy induction. Their body was ready, their baby was ready, and it worked for them. Somebody else could have that same induction, same method, same application of what they did before the induction, and they have a completely traumatic C-section and everything goes wrong. You don't know how it's going to affect you. And even looking at data and research, there are people on both sides of that. So if you do want to know more about that, I do talk a bit about due dates and how there's a problem with just inducing everyone at 41 weeks or 39 weeks. It's in one of my other videos where I actually took a deep dive into what Dr. Sarah Wickham talks about in her book, In Your Own Time. So you can go and check out that video in the playlist. And, if you ever have any questions, you just reach out. And one of the perks of the Empowered Birth newsletter is that I get back to you faster, because all you have to do is hit reply to any one of those weekly newsletters and we can have a conversation. If, however, you are not subscribed to the newsletter, then your method is writing to hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com, and then you put in the subject line what you need help with. However, if you're not in the community, it takes about 3 to 5 business days to get back to you, because priority first goes to clients, then it goes to students, then it goes to the Empowered Birth community members, and then finally it comes to everybody else. So recognizing that, again, putting in your email gives you more access. It gives you more access to information. So you need to recognize what's being reinforced here. With the Empowered Birth newsletter, I'm reinforcing the idea that you are your own best expert and that I'm not going to give you any medical advice. I'm not going to tell you what to do. What I am going to show you is that you already have all of the answers inside of yourself. All I need to do is bring that out in you. Through the resources that I have, you can take your pick, you can ask your questions, you can get it reflected back to you. If you do want my coaching, that is a premium service. And at the same time, information is free. And I'm not hiding anything. I have no agenda other than you having an empowered birth, other than you taking your power back, because you deserve to have an empowered birth. Every birth deserves to be an empowering and beautiful experience, no matter what. So when you have an empowered birth, you're an empowered mom for life, and no one can take your power away from you again. Whereas a lot of these mainstream reinforcing of the emails is telling you to look outside yourself and give up your power to the medical system. And we don't want that. We don't want you to give up your power. Here at Empowering Moms, we're all about you taking your power back, no permission needed, which is actually a quote that was said within the Improving Birth community with Dawn Thompson years ago. It was one of their slogans. It was on a t-shirt, and there's actually a picture of me with my sign that says, "I'm taking my power back, no permission needed." And then I went and I got that t-shirt later that said she took her power back, no permission needed, while I was pregnant with my daughter. So there's actually 2 versions where I've got this sign saying it at the beginning of my pregnancy: "For this birth, I'm taking my power back, no permission needed." And then later, after I had my empowered birth with my daughter, I was wearing the t-shirt that said the same thing. So again, when you have an empowered birth, you're an empowered mom for life. No one can take your power from you again, and nobody can reinforce a culture and an idealization of the medical system that doesn't work for you having a true natural birth. And finally, I've already touched on this as well, as number 3, they're trying to sell you into something. Usually, as I said, these emails are about advertising, and I'm going to be completely transparent again. The Empowered Birth newsletter does have some advertising. The advertising, however, is like, "Hey, here's a video. of somebody that I was following, go check them out. If you like them, go support them, because I'm here to amplify voices. And for so long, we've had this overwhelming mainstream birth culture that has affected our mindset and led to these fear traps that then undermine your confidence, because the most popular videos are not always the best ones. The most popular books are not always the best ones. The most popular just means that more money was put into it. Just like the hospital. So many people are like, well, the hospital is where people go to birth. But that only really happened in the 1920s, where people started to get pushed more into the hospital. Before that, it was only really for the poor who couldn't afford to have a doctor come to the birth. And you can read more about this inside Reclaiming Childbirth as a Rite of Passage. But during the Industrial Revolution, several things happened that led to this shift from home birth to hospital. And it started first with the women who were all working together, and they had the midwife come in, and the midwife was the guardian of natural birth. But the church didn't like that the midwife was a woman and that she was working outside of what the church deemed to be appropriate and what the politicians and kings and everybody deemed to be working for them. Recognizing that women were also basically property. You have to recognize that. And then children are a commodity. Women are a commodity. They're a natural resource. They're not human, according to this idea. So the midwife coming in, she's already an outsider. And then we have these other women, which were called the gossips, which would be made up of the mother's family and her friends, some close friends. Basically, the gossips did the role of what you would have a doula do today, or a postpartum doula, or if you brought in some family members. So these gossips were responsible for the emotional support of the mom, and they were the ones who would also ring the midwife when it was closer to the time of birthing, because the midwife wasn't going to be there the whole time. She'd only be there once the mother really needed her. So they had the gossips coming in, and the gossips were responsible for washing and cleaning and taking care of any other children, because of course there were so many children, there was no birth control. The men didn't like this because the women were now shirking their duties at home to go help other women. So then in the Industrial Revolution, what happens is everybody's pushed into the cities. They don't have time to attend births. There's no more emotional support. And they'd also had the witch hunts. And they'd also started legislating the midwives where they had to pay a fee in order to practice. And then there were also laws passed down where no woman could actually practice what they called physic, which is medicine, and they would basically get in trouble for that. So all of these doctors who wanted to get into maternity care, it was very easy for them to take these like illiterate midwives, usually of lower standing in the community, like lower status, like socially, by the monetary value that they held. These women also usually had their own properties sometimes. So then they try to get rid of the properties. I mean, it's all there. And then they go into the hospital, and the advertising for that was no more pain, no more fear, no, like, we'll take care of you. And for these women that were also trying to regain their rights to vote, they're like, well, I want to have freedom from my body. And the hospitals capitalized on that. And then this happened again in the 1960s with the sexual revolution. And women are like, I want to be completely free of my reproduction. And they capitalized on that. And then they invented Pitocin. And then they're like, oh, now we can control birth. And women were like, I don't want to have to go through the labor pains. Well, now they've got the epidural. Problem solved. They were deliberately chipping away at our ability to birth and then advertising that as a good thing. And they do the same thing with formula. They do the same thing with the baby gadgets. I mean, if you want to use a baby gadget, that's fine. At the same time, you need to be aware of what that is being used for. You don't want to use anything as a crutch, because when you do that, you're taking away your power. So recognizing that when you put your name and email in for these due date emails, or for anything that's like pregnancy tips every single week, or whatever free thing that they're doing, you're subscribing to a mindset. You're subscribing to an education. You're subscribing to advertising. And we know about advertising. If you have other kids, or you're already aware of this with little kids, they've moved away from commercials. However, they have it on the channels and they have it in the kids' TV shows themselves. I was pregnant with my second baby watching Power Rangers. Like, it was the old one from the 90s. And I was getting all excited to watch this with my son when I started to realize something. They were really just advertising toys, because everything was a gadget. There was so many things that were just a gadget. It was like a little bit of story, but mostly advertising. A lot of children's shows are based on the idea of merchandising. Even kids' movies are based on merchandising. I mean, I love Frozen. At the same time, my daughter, when she got into Frozen, she had an Elsa doll. But then they go and create a new Elsa who has new outfits. Guess who wants the new outfits? I mean, I got them for her because I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll do that because you want to play out the different scenarios. That's fine. But there's a difference between intention and mindless consumerism and mindlessly grabbing things. So part of the empowered birth method, again, is I teach you how to be discerning in what you're putting into your mindset and what you're pulling in for education. You need the right mindset, something that's not going to reinforce fear, but instead give you your power back. Because you're going to be able to release those fears, release those stories, release those what ifs and those scenarios of could, might, possibly, maybe happen, and tune into your truth. And you have your shield up. You don't let everything in. You can be like, yes, no, counter offer for anything, any decisions you make. Yes, no, counter offer. Yes, I'm going to put my email in. Yes, I'm going to put my name in. No, I'm not going to buy everything that they're saying in this email. So, I mean, there's several different subscribers even in my newsletter. There's the one that sits there and they're like, I'm just going to read this. I'm not going to click on any of the links. I just want to know what's out there. And this is something that I enjoy clicking on every single week because I have access to the toolkit, and at any point I can jump in. Then there's the subscriber that's like, I'm deliberately looking to see what's out there. I'm deliberately looking to see what course I want to buy if I want to subscribe, and I want to get your Empowered Birth Academy at some point, or I want to take a class. I want to know. And then there's the one that signs up because they're like, you know what? I'm signing up for this. And then I'm also going to go and buy this course. And then I'm going to book this call after I go through my course. And I want to work with you. I've had clients come in from my YouTube channel, especially just because they wanted to work with me, and they've gone through my entire thing. I've also had people who have followed me for years and they haven't bought anything. And then at the last minute, they're like, you know what? I want to work with you and I'm coming in. And then I've had people that are like, I'm never going to be able to afford your services. However, the second you offer something that's going to be cheaper for me, I'm jumping in and I'm buying that. And I'm telling all my friends about you. So wherever you fall in that spectrum, I want you to recognize that there's a lot of email lists out there that they don't do that. You sign up for something, you get it, you think, oh, this is awesome, I got the thing I wanted. And then suddenly you're bombarded with advertising for different places. And it's like, I don't know where to go. I'm not going to do that to you. As I said, the Empowered Birth newsletter is written a certain way so that if you do want to go deeper, you can. At the same time, you are under absolutely no obligation to go deeper. I just want you to have that information. Because if you don't have that information, you're falling into those natural birth traps again. You're falling into the trap of, well, this just happened. What do I do? You go into the mom forum. They tell you a whole bunch of information. Most of it that they're pulling from mainstream. Most of it that they're getting from their doctors who are also in the mainstream system. Mostly from people who have been traumatized and aren't aware of their trauma. And then you're trying to absorb that information and get like comfortable doing something that you're not actually comfortable with. This is why when people are like, give me some positive stories, because I'm being told I have to induce. And then I'm looking at what's actually going on. And I'm like, no, you don't have to. Do you want to? Have you weighed the evidence, or is your doctor just trying to push you through the system and they're not giving you the information? Because you need the information. So, to recap on why these emails are so problematic, why you don't just want to sign up for any email newsletter, and you don't want to just sign up for the due date emails, especially. Well, number one is that they are arbitrary and mainstream. Usually it's all just that mainstream culture, like percolating, and it's going to keep you in the fear traps and the information overwhelm, and it's not going to help you. The second problem that you have is that it often reinforces either the overly medicalized birth culture, especially if it's mainstream, and if the main goal was just to sell you diapers and formula and baby gadgets and like RESPs and anything else that they're trying to get you on other people's lists for, because they do that, versus the natural birth community that is also trying to sell you into a course or program that's going to show you, well, this is how we do the method of how to actually get your body prepared for birth so that it's not painful, without recognizing that you could have a completely painless, easy, natural birth without doing any of that. Now, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying that if you don't feel the need to, you don't have to call that in. And if you want to call that in, then that resource is available to you. But don't ever think that you have to buy something just to get the help you need. Because again, the Empowered Birth Method is all about choosing the right environment and the right facilitators, the right support, having the right mindset and the right education, and being able to be like, okay, this is what I need to call in. And sometimes things are behind a paywall, and I really don't think that's always fair to you. So I do my best to sample the information and put it out there, either in the newsletter or through these videos. It does take me longer to create a video and edit it and get it up on the channel than it does for me to create a newsletter. And every single week, it's something different. So when I have an insight or a question comes to me, that then allows me to put that through the newsletter. I also create PDFs. I create little lists and guides, and I create reports. I create ebooks. I have written a book. I'm probably going to publish more in the future. I do have courses that you can go through, and I have workbooks that you can go through. Your Empowered Birth Academy is basically you get everything, all of the information. But the most precious part of that is that you have email access while you're going through the course. It's not a one-off email thing. Like you can basically email me every time you go through a module. You can be like, hey, I have a question about this. You can send in your homework and I will go over your homework for you. And I will then reflect that back to you and I will help you. And at the end of the program, if you feel like you want to get on a call with me, that call is 45 minutes for you to do whatever you need to do. Now, in some of my lower level programs, the calls are shorter, but again, it's to help you. We can use that for anything you want. Basically, my goal is you get your empowered birth. You get your true natural birth. You get the birth you want without having to fight, beg, or compromise. And I want to do that for you. So again, when you sign up for my email newsletter, when you sign up for my courses, you are getting access to me. It's not the information. You could keep watching these YouTube videos. If you find them helpful, all I ask is that you pay it forward. Because number 3, as I said, when you're signing up for emails and you're signing up on apps, is that you're also subscribing to advertising. And one of the things about myself is that I don't believe in selling you into something you don't need. It really irks me that a lot of these emails that come in, especially from mainstream, that their ultimate goal is to get you to buy formula. And I will be sharing more about that in the next video when I talk about the reasons why you don't want to sign up for the new mom packages. Because that's the same idea with the foot in the door concept of selling and psychology and social psychology, which again, I went to college for. I was into social psychology. I've actually been into social psychology since I was 11 when my dad went back to school. So this is something I know a lot about. I've been able to see the foot in the door technique being used, and it can be either a good thing or it can be a way to lure you into a trap. Think about the gingerbread house with the witch. That in itself is a foot in the door. The kids come up to the gingerbread house, they're eating all the candy. Yeah, it's on the outside, but now the witch is like, I've got better sweets inside. Now the kids could have been like, no, lady, I think I'm just going to leave. I'm sorry I nibbled on your house, but we're full now and we're going to go. But they were tempted to see what else was behind that door. But what was behind that door was not what they were expecting, was it? So you need to be really careful about gingerbread houses. Maybe it is a wonderful, delicious feast inside, and maybe you are actually going to get full and you're going to get what you need. Or maybe it's something else that you really don't want. And I mean, this is a metaphor that you could look out in a lot of areas. The foot in the door technique is very powerful. And you need to also be discerning about it. So now that you understand why you don't want to just sign up for any due date emails or any apps, and you really want to be discerning, I'm just going to also tell you that the Empowered Birth newsletter is completely open to you. All you have to do to find out more about the Empowered Birth method and true natural birth and the 3 paths for working with me and getting the Empowered Birth method is to go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide. If you've already read through it once, you don't have to read through the whole thing again. That's why I have the table of contents available. You can also choose your own adventure within that. You can go and look up mistakes you're making as a first-time mom. Mistakes you're making as a seasoned mom. Hey, I made them too. Even as a seasoned mom and birth advocate, I made some mistakes in my second pregnancy that then led to me having a little bit more anxiety and my labor going a certain way that I'm like, you know what? If I hadn't been good and stubborn, I might have been transferred to the hospital. I might have given up on my home birth. But because I was good and stubborn, and I also had some mindset tools that I used for myself, and I basically went and faced my fears, which I teach you how to do with the Empowered Birth method, I was able to reclaim that birth. Because I was basically told, if you go into labor again and you call me and you're not as far as you need to be, we're going to have to transfer you to the hospital because you've been in and out of labor. So recognizing that to have a true natural birth means you need to tune into yourself first. You have to be your own best expert. You can't rely on the outside because the outside is immersed in the same culture of fear. So when you are able to get past your fear and then you're able to inspire others to support you, then you can strongly advocate. But if you try to advocate for yourself and you're still afraid, They're going to push every single button until they find the one that works. This is what happens, and you can read more about that in the birth advocacy report, especially under category 5 care providers. You have to be extremely careful. This is true in the mom groups as well. This is true in the emails. They're going to find a button to push to get you into your fear and your anxiety so that you think you need something, so that then you go and pay to get that help. And I won't do that to you. I absolutely won't do that to you. If you want to work with me, absolutely, there's a path to get there. And if you want the information on your own, it's out there. Information is free. You only pay for access to me. So again, empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide. And then you can learn about the 3 paths to getting the empowered birth method. And this path, of course, is do it yourself. So all I ask that you do with the do it yourself method is you continue to follow these videos, you like, you share, you subscribe to the channels, you go to social media, you tell other moms about that, pay it forward. Because so many people are signing up for these email newsletters that aren't helping them. And if they're going to sign up for a newsletter, they deserve to have the kind of experience of natural birth that they were born to have, not the one that's being pushed on in the medical system. Again, go read Reclaiming Childbirth as a Rite of Passage. Another great book is called Give Birth Like a Feminist by Millie Hill. This is another great one. It talks about the birth culture. I do have a video as well. If you're looking for more books, go and check out the video I did on the 15 best books that I would recommend for natural birth. I'm not exactly sure of the title, but it is inside the playlist for this video series. So all you have to do is go into the playlist, you'll find the series. I start each series of videos with the main theme. So this one is the 26 things you need to know if this is your first time planning a true natural birth. And then each one of those in the masterclass, you get those videos. And I'm going to be doing more in the future, so keep checking out for that. Just pay it forward. Drop these into the mom groups. Help the moms find the information, because I don't believe that things should be behind a paywall. Services belong behind a paywall. People who are experts belong behind a paywall. Energy is currency, and energy is important. Your time, your money, your resources, your gifts are important, empowered mom. So you deserve to put your time and energy and money and resources to things that actually are going to benefit you, not something that you're just mindlessly consuming because somebody else said that it was good, and then it leads you into those natural birth traps. I don't want that for you. If you only have enough money in your budget to hire a doula, then hire a doula and use the information in the Empowered Birth Community newsletter and inside Your Empowered Birth and through all of my content on social media and through the website to enhance your relationship with your doula and to enhance what you're looking to create in your birth. Use that information and then bring in the expert that you can afford. But if you do want to work with me, that is available for you. So I just wanted to let you know, I am here for you, empowered mom. I want you to have an empowered birth. Whether you work with me or not, whether you buy any of my courses or not, you deserve it. Information is free. You only pay for access to me. And when you have an empowered birth, you're an empowered mom for life. And no one can take your power away from you again. So thank you so much for watching. Keep following this series, because next week I'm going to be going into why you don't want to sign up for those new mom packages. I'm going to tell you some secrets about what I discovered and what I also was reading from other experts who were talking about those new mom packages. And I'm just going to make sure that you are awake to what is going on in our birth culture and within the medical system and maternity care, so that you can get your empowered birth and you can advocate strongly for yourself and you don't fall into the natural birth traps or the fear traps, and you're able to confidently birth your baby and no more information overwhelm. All right. So again, thank you so much for watching. Have a happy, empowered birth journey, and I'll see you soon. Namaste.